Friends, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. Linda was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her now empty coffee cup. She was patiently waiting for today's conversation with her husband, Jim. Fortunately, their children were still at the neighbors and were supposed to spend the night there. So at least they wouldn't have to be here during all the screaming and screaming that she knew was going to happen. Damn it. It all started with a little innocent flirtation and a few dinners. How could she let this get out of hand? Linda had been feeling that something was wrong for more than a month, but after the last test she took, she realized that she had to tell Jim about it. He got up early and went to the store to get something, so she was sitting there waiting for him to return. Linda heard the front doorbell ring and, almost simultaneously, the sound of a large truck in the driveway. Not expecting anyone but her husband, she decided that someone was just lost and looking for a way. "Can I help you?" she said, opening the door. "Linda Gardner?" the man asked. "Yes, I'm Linda Gardner. How can I help you?" "What is it?" she asked again. "I have an order to pack your things and move them to 815 Southwest 10th Avenue, the man told her, handing Linda a tablet while shouting to the four men in the truck to start unloading the boxes. "There must have been some mistake. I've never made such an order," Linda told him, handing back the papers. "Yes, miss, I know. The order was placed by Mr. Jim Gardner a week ago," he replied, showing her Jim's signature at the bottom of the sheet. "Look, my husband will be back soon, and I'm sure he can clear up this misunderstanding," Linda replied. "Mrs. Gardner, I've just come from your husband. 20 minutes ago, he told me to give you this envelope if you obstruct me," he said, handing Linda a large manila envelope. "Now, if you don't mind, could you show us the master bedroom? We were given just 1 hour to do this job." Linda opened the envelope and briefly looked at the piece of paper. Almost in a whisper, she said to the worker, "The first room is at the top of the stairs, on the right." The men hurried up the stairs and for the next 40 minutes were busy packing and dragging box after box to the truck in the driveway. From time to time, they tried to ask Linda a question, but she was silent, mentally being somewhere else. So they just did the best they could. 50 minutes after their appearance, they announced that they were done and ready to leave. "I'm going to need your signature, Mrs. Gardner," the chief worker said. Linda scribbled something at the bottom of the paper, and they left. Exactly 10 minutes later, Linda's father appeared. "Darling," Ken said, looking at his stunned daughter. "Jim asked me to pick you up, knowing that you probably wouldn't be able to drive yourself," he explained. "Your mom is waiting for me and the movers to take your things. We'll put it all in the garage for now, and then we'll figure it out," Ken told Linda, leading her out of the house. "This can't be happening," Linda said aloud as Ken helped her into the car. "Where's Jim? If Jim were here, I could sort out this whole mess with him," she thought to herself. "He would have listened to me, wouldn't he?" Half an hour later, Jim returned to the house, but with a locksmith. "Change all the locks, including the garage door opening code," he instructed the locksmith. "Leave me 5 sets of keys and don't forget to lock the side door of the garage," he told him as he entered his now empty house. When he went upstairs, he found that the men had done a pretty decent job considering the schedule he had given them. Looking at his watch, he realized that he had only 15 minutes left before the next truck arrived. Grabbing a couple of empty boxes, he finished loading the rest of the things the movers had missed, including her makeup and things from the bathroom vanity. While he was carrying the last 2 boxes, the next truck pulled up. His sister Donna came in with the movers. "Hi, girl," Jim said, hugging his sister. "Why don't you take over the second bedroom on the left, next to the bathroom? It's much bigger than the spare room, and it has a walk-in closet," he told her. "We'll move the baby stuff later." "No problem. What are you going to do with Linda's car?" "Her father is supposed to pick her up tonight after he finishes with the movers," he told her. "Let me sort things out a bit. I'm going to pop into the office for a minute, and I'll bring us pizza for tonight," Jim said, heading for the garage. "Just no mushrooms," Donna replied, indicating to the workers where to put everything. "Right on schedule," Jim said, looking at his watch. From his car, he could see his 3 best friends having a heated discussion with David, his wife's colleague, and he didn't look happy. About 5 minutes later, Bob, one of the 3 men, walked over to where Jim's car was parked. He thought we were joking until I took out my knife. I offered him an option: disappear within 24 hours. I told him we'd be back tomorrow to find out his decision, Bob said, grinning. How are you, buddy? Are you holding up? I'll be better tomorrow, Jim replied sadly. I never thought that I would have to go through something like this, but I will survive. Okay, I have to leave now. I'll see you at my place later. Jim collected copies of the photos and receipts that the detective had left at his office on Friday afternoon while a shocked Jim ran around him. He knew what was in the envelopes and wasn't going to even look at them. He just needed them for a lawyer. Yes, $1,000 down the drain, he thought to himself, looking at the bill. Leaving the envelope at his lawyer's office, Jim took 4 pizzas and a case of beer and went home. He planned to get drunk for the last time, because after tonight he would become a single father, and in the future he would need to set the children only the right example, not like the example of his future ex-wife. By the time Jim returned, the truck was gone, and Donna and several of her friends were setting up a new bedroom for her. Hello, brother. Donna greeted Jim as he went upstairs. Where is all the help you promised me? What is it? She asked. The guys are finishing something for me, and they should be here in about an hour. Why don't we take a break and eat something for now? He suggested to Donna and her friends. Bob and his other friends finally showed up shortly before 4 p.m., and by 7 p.m. everyone was already sitting in Donna's room, drinking beer and catching the breeze in the open window. Everyone except Jim. Donna found her brother in the basement, where he was watching old home movies. We have everyone upstairs in my room, and everyone has already eaten. Can I get you something to eat? What is it? She asked. Not now, dear, but thanks for asking, Jim replied. I just need some time alone, that's all. Well, I'll be in the kitchen if you need anything, Donna told him. Then she kissed her brother on the top of his head and left, closing the door behind her. I didn't even imagine that this would happen, Jim thought again. How could I be so blind? A little over a month ago, while paying bills online, Jim came across a bill for an examination at a local clinic. Honey, did you go to the doctor? He shouted to his wife, who was cooking dinner in the kitchen. I thought I had the flu and went for a B12 shot, she shouted back. Damn, their prices are amazing, he said under his breath. $125 for examination and vaccination of B12 insurance. I need to call them tomorrow. There must be a mistake in the bill, he thought to himself. But there was no mistake. To the billing department, please, Jim said, calling the clinic from his office the next day. How can I help you? The girl asked in response. Good morning. My wife Linda Gardner was at the clinic 2 weeks ago, and I think we overpaid for her visit. She had a routine checkup and a B12 injection, he explained to her. But we were billed for $125, whereas the insurance should have been no more than $45. There was a short pause. Linda Gardner, right? The girl asked. That's right, Jim replied. Sir, she was given a B12 injection, but in addition to the injection, she also had a blood test and additional tests, she told him. Blood test and additional tests? What kind of tests? He asked. I'm sorry, sir. We're not allowed to divulge such information, the girl replied. Look, miss, Linda is my wife, and I'm not asking about the test results. I just want to know which ones exactly are we talking about, Jim said, starting to get a little annoyed. Good. Because you are her husband. It was a complete blood test and pregnancy test. Well, thanks a lot for the information. I'll pay the bill in full, Jim told her when he heard the answer. Is it possible to say that he had a heart attack? Why the hell would Linda do a pregnancy test if he had a vasectomy right after she gave birth to her second child? You didn't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what was going on. Linda always had some kind of problem with any type of contraceptive they tried, and she was categorically against abortions. This is murder, no matter how you look at it, she told him. So, after the blunder that gave them a second daughter, Jim decided to become a sniper. The operation eliminated the possibility of the following errors and removed the issue of abortion from the agenda. At least, that's what Jim thought up to this point. 10 minutes later, he was sitting at his desk, flipping through the yellow pages in search of a private investigator. Before, he had no reason to doubt Linda's loyalty, but now he no longer knew what to believe. Jim had never thought that watching his wife would cost so much, but there was no other way out. She always comes home at the same time, and except for the occasional team-building seminar, she always works in the office," he told the detective. "I need you to start right away, because I'm going crazy knowing that she's cheating on me, and I damn well need to know who she's with." Jim made the next call to his good friend, who worked in the same department as Linda. "Dan, this is Jim Gardner," he began. "I have a huge request for you. If you don't mind, I need to talk to you outside of work. Can you meet me at Tony's Cafe after work?" "Great. I'll see you around 5:30 p.m. Jim wasn't quite sure how to make such a request to Dan, but decided that since they had known each other for a long time, a direct approach would be the best. They were sipping beer when Jim sighed. "Dan, I just found out that Linda is cheating on me. I think it's someone she works with. It's probably been going on for at least a couple of months, and I need to find out who it is." Dan was stunned. "Linda would never do that to you, Jim. There must have been some mistake." "There's no mistake, Dan. I have proof. I just need to know who it is." "Jim, we have a small company, and I know most of the employees by name," Dan told him. "Damn it, there's a regular office flirting game, but nothing more. Listen, there are 2 people in the office who owe me a lot, and they always know everything if something is going on. Trust me. I'll call you if I find out anything." "I'm sorry to hear that about Linda." "No more than about me," Jim replied. The next 3 days sucked. Jim wanted to grab Linda, shake her, and ask, why? But her answer didn't matter anymore. Their life wasn't very good, but it wasn't bad either. They made love about twice a week. Jim thought it was pretty good having 2 kids. Linda never talked about anything new that she wanted to try in bed, and still refused Jim other things that he always asked for. So nothing has changed. The only thing he could remember was that when Linda returned home from her monthly seminars, they had never made love that evening. Maybe it was just a coincidence, but now he was looking for something unusual. The seminars were always held on Friday afternoon at the Best Western Hotel and lasted about 2 hours. After that, many employees visited the bar at happy hour instead of dinner. On nights like these, Jim would take the kids out for a snack or stop by his parents for dinner. They did not meet with Linda until 2000 hours, the time when she returned home. Now he was questioning everything about his marriage, trying to figure out the reason why Linda had started cheating on him. On Friday morning, Dan called. "If she's cheating with anyone at work, it's with a new guy named David Collins. He came to us last year. There are rumors that they had lunch together a couple of times and that they were seen dancing during happy hour," he informed Jim. "I know it's not exactly what you were looking for, but that's all I could find out. I hope you two can figure this out. Thanks for the information, but I don't think it's likely." Jim called the detective and gave him the name that Dan had told him, closed the store, and went home. How the hell was he supposed to play the role of a normal, loving husband when all he wanted to do was throw her out of the house and continue his now ruined life alone? On weekends, he and Linda did the usual family chores: yard work, children's soccer practice, and a traditional barbecue with neighbors on Sundays. Linda wanted to make love on Saturday night, but Jim informed her that his stomach was a little upset and turned away from his wife and fell asleep. Jim thanked God for Monday. Work was now his refuge away from home, where he could relax and put the rest of his plans into action. The last thing to do was to get the divorce papers off the ground. He has already chosen a lawyer and paid him a fee. He agreed to prepare divorce papers without guilt. Since he and Linda both worked, he asked to split their assets 50-50 without paying alimony. What was not negotiable was that Jim should get custody of their 2 girls. If Linda does not consent to his custody, he will change the reason for the divorce to adultery and send all the evidence of infidelity to everyone who knows her. He knew that after receiving the papers, Linda would go crazy, so he asked for and received a restraining order. She could have called the girls, but she couldn't get closer than 75 meters to the house. By Tuesday, the private investigator had received information, including room receipts. Both were from the Best Western, where Linda's Friday seminars were held. The receipts were written out in David's name. The detective also received photos from surveillance cameras, in which Linda and her lover, holding hands, enter the room, and in one of the pictures they kissed in the hallway. Jim said he didn't want to look at the photos. He told the detective to just put everything in a manila envelope and take it to his office. He thanked him for his quick work and said that the check would be mailed by Tuesday. By Friday, everything was ready. It was agreed with the neighbors about the children for the weekend. Both sets of movers were planned. The locksmith was supposed to finish the work by 1400 hours. Finally, all the documents were to be finalized on Monday and handed over on Tuesday afternoon. Linda has no idea what's going on, Jim thought to himself, and he wanted it to stay that way. Linda's story. I was sitting at the kitchen table feeling sorry for myself when the movers came to the door. I told them to wait until Jim returned, but when their eldest gave me the envelope, I saw what was inside and immediately realized that Jim knew everything. In the envelope was a copy of the pregnancy test I took at the clinic. Then at first I thought that I had the flu, like everyone else, but the malaise just held and did not go away. I didn't have any pain in my body, I just felt a little out of place. One morning Carol made a joke. "It looks like you're pregnant again, Linda." It was then that it first occurred to me that this might be true. When David came to our office, I had just turned 30, and I was starting to feel like an old married woman. I helped him adapt, and he was always a nice young man, smelled great and all that. David really always looked good. Even though he was 5 years younger, we realized that we liked the same music and Mexican food was our favorite cuisine. Soon after, we started going to lunch at a local Mexican restaurant together and meeting for drinks after our seminars. One Friday evening, after a team-building seminar, music was playing, and he invited me to dance. We danced to 2 fast songs, and the third was slow. I haven't done a slow dance with anyone since I got married, but with David it seemed so natural. We floated around the dance floor, and when the song ended, we sat back down with our band. I was hot. It felt so good in his arms. I didn't want the music to end. After 2 drinks, I decided it was best to go home. I knew I should have stopped talking to David, but I liked being with him. Apart from dancing and a few dinners, I didn't do anything wrong. At least that's what I thought at the time. It was only at the 4th Friday meeting that the situation got a little out of control. Our department received an award for having worked for a month with the best performance in the company, and each of us received a bonus of $100. Of course, we went to the bar to celebrate the award. 2 hours later, there were only 4 of us left. I drank too much and told David that I needed to go to a restaurant and have a coffee before I tried to go home. He kindly joined me. On the way to coffee, I suddenly stumbled, and David managed to catch me before I fell to the floor. As a result, one of his hands was on my waist, and the other was holding my chest. "Are you okay?" "What is it?" he asked, pulling me to my feet. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Instead of answering, I just looked into his eyes and kissed him on the lips. It took him by surprise, but a second later he was kissing me back. It seemed like hours before I pulled away and blushed. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done this," I told David. "Please forgive me." "Don't worry about it, Linda," he replied with a grin. "I'll just take it as a thank you for saving your life. And now let's get you some coffee anyway," and took me to a restaurant. The following week, I tried to stay away from David as much as possible. I found a job at lunchtime and didn't stay for happy hour on Friday. It was especially terrible when I found myself getting wet every time I imagined myself in David's arms. Thinking about him was my mistake. 2 weeks later, I stayed for happy hour. Jim wasn't supposed to be home until 8:30 p.m., so I planned dinner and drinks with a few of my colleagues. That evening, everyone seemed to have an excuse not to stay in the company for a long time. By 6:30 p.m., it was just me and David at the table. "Let's have a bite to eat," he suggested. At that moment, the music started playing, and I asked David to dance with me. For some reason, the musicians played 4 slow songs in a row, and we danced them all. My heart was almost bursting out of my chest as we slid across the floor. I was sweating profusely, and my red thong was soaked through. I felt so good in his arms. How we ended up in the back seat of his car, I have no idea. We did everything except love. It was almost 200 hours before we realized what time it was. After straightening my dress and hairstyle, I kissed him again and headed for my car. I should have been ashamed, but for some reason I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel guilty until I saw my husband and children. Jim wanted to make love that night, but I couldn't even look at him, let alone make love to him. After about a 45-minute shower, I slipped into bed and just cuddled with him for the rest of the night. I knew I was playing with fire, but I couldn't stop. I was hooked. Now we started meeting again during lunch. God, I was in such a hurry to see David again. A week later, He told me that he had booked a room for Friday night at the Best Western in case I wanted to be alone with him after the seminar. We left the bar separately and met in the hallway near the room. "Are you sure you want to do this?" David asked. "I'm not sure, but let's get out of the hallway before someone sees us," I said. Damn it, we hadn't been in the room for more than 10 seconds when we started ripping each other's clothes off. "Oh my God!" I screamed, pulling a pillow over my face to muffle my screams. The first moment came to me very quickly, but David did not stop caressing me. "Come on, let me relax for a minute." "It was sweet. It was really sweet," he told me. We made love again and then took a shower together. After that, we got dressed and individually slipped out of the room so that we would not be seen together. I managed to get home 45 minutes before Jim and the kids arrived. David and I met twice more before I felt unwell, as I thought, from the flu. When Carol joked about my pregnancy, I panicked and went to the doctor. I didn't believe, or didn't want to believe, the results that I was pregnant. David was always protected, and Jim was infertile after surgery. Looking at the copy of the results in the envelope, I realized that I was being used. In many ways. So Linda was sitting in the kitchen, waiting for Jim to return. She was preparing to tell her husband her news herself. It was then that her world collapsed around her. Her marriage was over. What followed showed that Jim wanted to get his pound of flesh from each of them. He wanted David to leave town so that he would never have to see his face again, and he wanted Linda to suffer for what she had done to their happy family. His unmarried sister Donna was moving into their house to help him with the two girls. What the hell did he even know about raising girls and women's issues? His parents were always there to support him, and he knew it wouldn't be easy, but they would all survive. On Sunday evening, Jim sat the girls down next to Donna and explained that they were having problems with their mother and that Aunt Donna was going to live with them for a while. Jim told them they could see their mom whenever they wanted. It's just that Mom wasn't going to live with them anymore. They were all crying and hugging, but a big plate of ice cream helped them get through the bad news. Jim. On Tuesday, Linda was served, and although she called me on my cell phone 20 times, I had nothing more to say to her. When she called home, Donna answered. My sister also tried to explain to her that it was over, but she wasn't listening. I canceled all our shared credit cards, excluded her from my insurance and retirement account, and did everything else necessary in the divorce. Nevertheless, on Wednesday, I let her see the children. Donna took the girls to meet their mother at our parents' house and stayed there until Linda left. I didn't see Linda until we all sat down with the lawyers in their office. Linda's lawyer began by demanding this and that. When he started talking about Linda's full custody of the children, I got up and said I was leaving. "We've just started. Where are you going?" He was surprised. "I'll only say it once," I replied quietly. "The conditions are what they are. Linda will be able to see the children whenever she wants, but I will have physical custody. She is carrying someone else's child, and my children will not witness the birth of her illegitimate child. Fight with me for this or for something else, and I will tell the whole world what my future ex-wife really is. So I suggest you think about it long and hard before you open your damn mouth again." We took a short break to cool down. After the second meeting, Linda said that she agreed with all my conditions, and all the papers were signed. "I'm truly sorry, Jim. I don't know why I let this happen. I've always loved only you," my now ex-wife sobbed. "I don't think it's enough," I replied. As I was leaving, I turned around and looked at Linda. "Since you were both confused at the team building seminar, maybe you can get compensation from the company for an occupational injury." I grinned and left. For the last time. End.